Part 83. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 821. Magistrate Tang followed Man Bao and they stayed in the temple until Sushi, watching a group of teenagers running down happily from the mountain with two bamboo rats. A group of people called Man Bao and Bai Shan to find a hillside and start roasting bamboo rats. Although County Magistrate Tang had picnics with his friends, and grilled things when he went out with his father, it was the first time I saw roasted bamboo rats. Seeing that the teenagers were quick and agile, and Man Bao was familiar with picking up firewood and lighting it up, he squatted aside and asked, "Do you often do this?" "No," Man Bao shook his head, "I only do it once a year, and there are more of them." Bai Erlang drifted past and said, "That's because you're lazy. Every year Chongyang asks you to come together, but you don't." County Magistrate Tang watched them make a fuss with a smile, and then got a small piece of bamboo rat meat, ate the meat, walked down the mountain road for a while, and everyone went home. Magistrate Tang laughed and said, "Then I won't send you off anymore." Bai Erlang asked curiously, "Aren't you going back to the county seat?" "The yamen is not open for the past 2 days. I have a contract with Daoist Shaoqing, so I will stay here for 2 days. If you come here to play, you can come and talk to me." As if he would actually live here. Bai Erlang didn't know, so he said embarrassingly, "I won't be able to come tomorrow, my lord. Let's play here. Well, the Daoist Shaoqing is very good." Magistrate Tang smiled and nodded. Bai Erlang came here with the boys in the village, so he naturally wanted to go back. Everyone held torches in their hands, and walking together was a kind of fun. Everyone invited Man Bao and Bai Shan to be together, and they readily agreed and walked together. After leaving Dali village, there were still people singing. Bai Erlang ran around to join in the fun, only to realize something was wrong when he turned his head occasionally. He hurried back to look for Bai Shan. "Where's Daji and the carriage?" Bai Shan glanced back and said nonchalantly, "Leave behind, let's go first. Can we still lose Daji?" Bai Erlang thought so too. He didn't take this matter to heart, and ran away with everyone. When they were about to return to Kilai village, Daji drove the carriage and followed them leisurely. They had already come here. Naturally, it was impossible for everyone to take the carriage again, so they continued to walk on their own. Daji drove the empty carriage back home, and drove the carriage directly to the yard. Man Bao found the 3 heads who were playing crazy from the crowd. "Go back and tell your family that I went to Bai Shan's house." "Sister-in-law, it's past time, why don't you go home and sleep?" Man Bao said, "No rush, I'm not sleepy." Santu was very envious, "I'm not sleepy, but I have to go back to sleep. Sister, I went back and told the family, can I tell my mother that I will go to Baishan's house to accompany you?" Man Bao refused, "No, you are still young, you can only grow taller if you sleep well, you know." 3 heads, "Sister-in-law, I am 2 months older than you." Man Bao has turned around and left with Bai Shan. Santu looked at her back and sighed. The sister-in-law became more and more heartless. When Man Bao followed Bai Shan back to Bai's house, County Magistrate Tang was already standing in the main room talking to Mrs. Lu, and the two trotted in immediately. Mrs. Lu gave them a reproachful look and said, "Why are you running away? How impolite you are in front of distinguished guests." Magistrate Tang smiled and said, "The old lady is too polite. I think it's good for them to be like this. Don't be too restrictive." The 2 of them smiled embarrassedly, and then looked at Mrs. Lu eagerly. Mrs. Lu thought about it all afternoon, and she did think about it clearly. She turned around and asked Magistrate Tang to go to her study in the yard. She personally took out a box and opened it. There were 3 letters and 4 statements in it. She pushed the box in front of Magistrate Tang. County Magistrate Tang reached out and picked up the letter first, flipping through it. The letters were all letters sent home by County Magistrate Bai. The paper was yellowed, but it was well preserved. but it was probably often opened and read by people, so the creased parts were about to rot. Magistrate Tang read it carefully, and then went to look up the confessions. There were 4 statements in total, and to the county magistrate Tang's surprise, besides ERG's statement and the statement of the 3 people 4 years ago, there were actually 2 very old statements. Mrs. Lu said, "These 2 people went to my village to inquire about the situation 12 years ago, and they were caught by the farmers as thieves." Magistrate Tang asked, "Where are people?" Mrs. Lu lowered her eyes and said, "Because of the serious injuries, she died at that time. We reported it to the local yamen, but no one claimed the body because it was a thief." County Magistrate Tang frowned slightly, but he didn't ask too much for this kind of fight that is either you or me. After reading all the confessions, Magistrate Tang asked, "What else does the old lady have?" Mrs. Lu shook her head. Magistrate Tang was not very satisfied, and said, "Since the old lady wants me to investigate this case, it's better to be honest." Mrs. Lu said, "It's really gone." County Magistrate Tang said, "I want to see ERG. ERG has limited mobility and can only lie on the bed." Mrs. Lu, "ERG is the only survivor. I must see him, not now, but one day in the future. If you hide him for a lifetime, then you can only hide this case for a lifetime." Mrs. Lu opened her mouth, Bai Shan stepped forward and tugged at her sleeve, and whispered, "Grandmother." Mrs. Lu was discouraged, and took a step back. "Okay, I will send him to a place when the time comes, and adults can go there to meet him. Does your family have a shop or zhuangzi in Yazhu City? Just send it there." Mrs. Lu, "How can I do that?" Magistrate Tang said, "The most dangerous place is the safest place, not to mention the county magistrate of Huiyang County is still the county. Old lady, just rest assured, what kind of person you send in, I will be like when I send out son." Magistrate Tang said, "This county can't leave Huiyang County for too long. Obviously, you can't send people here within 1 or 2 days. Besides, the case was filed in Yazhu City back then. It would be best to investigate in Yazhu City." Bai Shan and Man Bao also nodded together, "Yes, yes, and we are also in Yazhu City." Bai Shandao, "It's very difficult for government schools to ask for leave." Man Bao, "It's not good for me to avoid going to the pharmacy all the time." Mrs. Lu secretly said, "I just don't want you to get involved." But facing Shangtang County Magistrate's smiling eyes, Mrs. Lu could only sigh and agree. Mrs. Wei agreed to help her investigate this case, but he has a lot of things to do every day, so obviously he can't put too much energy on this case, and he is a big official, and there are many people staring at him. As for 4 years, there is still not much progress. As Bai Shan is getting older day by day, Mrs. Lu is also getting older day by day. She doesn't want to delay the matter any longer. That's why when Yang Heshu and Tang He came to investigate, she didn't do anything, and they followed Man Bao to find Zhou Yin, and then took advantage of the trend to pull out the whole case. Good night. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 822. Seeing Mrs. Liu's consent, Magistrate Tang handed over the contents of the box to Bai Shan and Man Bao. Therefore, it is beneficial to let them get involved. These 2 people can always get things that are difficult for him to get. Magistrate Tang smiled slightly, and said, "After reading it, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Take your time, and I will talk to the old lady." Man Bao and Bai Shan watched them change places to talk, and they looked down at the things in the box together. Bai Shan read his father's letter first, and then read the statement, but he didn't see anything. The 2 sat in the study and looked at the side room quietly, propped their chins and said, "I don't know what they are talking about inside." Man Bao, "We agreed to be together, but they left us again. Adults love to lie." Bai Shan said conveniently, "Forget it, we will check it ourselves." Man Baodang pulled the contents of the box and asked, I can't see anything anyway, how can I check? She sighed, I don't know where the things your father gave to my parents went. Bai Shan paused, then stretched out his hand to look for ERG's statement. He looked carefully and asked Man Bao, do you know where this is? Man Bao went up to look, shook his head and said, it doesn't look like the way we are going home from the county now. Your father escaped from Yazhu City, and my parents drove home from Lujiang County. It is not possible, it's only when we meet on the official road. It's been more than 10 years, and the road will always change, Bai Shan said, ask your parents. Man Bao felt reasonable, I'll ask when I get back at night. It's night now. Bai Shan looked at Man Bao. Man Bao hesitated, aren't we really going to listen to what they have to say? Bai Shan whispered, Mother Lu is guarding the door. Man Bao was disappointed. Bai Shan then leaned close to her ear and whispered, don't worry, I'll pester Grandma to ask after County Magistrate Tang goes to rest. Man Bao just nodded. Bai Shan stood up, let's go, I'll take you home. It's almost high time now. The village that was a little bustling because everyone came back from the temple fair has already quieted down, and most of the people in each household are asleep. Adaji followed her back to Bai Shan's buttocks to send her back. After watching her enter the house, Bai Shan held up the lantern and turned to go home. Most of the old Zhou's family were asleep. Old Zhutu, Qianxi, and Zhou Dalan's room were still moving. As soon as they heard the sound of the door opening and closing, little Qian came out of the room first, and saw Man Bao coming back. Then he breathed a sigh of relief, I also said that if you don't come back, your elder brother will pick you up. How did you play until now? Man Bao glanced at the lights in her parents' room, and walked over there, asking casually, sister-in-law, are parents still asleep? No. Before the words finished, the lights in the main room went out, and Xiao Qian suddenly choked. Man Bao also paused, his eyes widening. Xiao Qian hurriedly said, it's very late today, and my parents are going to climb the mountain today, I'm afraid they are already tired, so let's talk tomorrow if you have something to say. Little Qian is about to send Man Bao back to the house to sleep, the water is hot in the kitchen, I'll get you a basin to wash up. Man Bao turned around and went back to the house in a daze, wondering why her parents avoided her. Inside the room, MRSGN also looked at old Zhou with a speechless face, and asked after a while, why are you turning off the lights when you have nothing to do? The old Zhou in the dark also looked annoyed, and whispered, aren't I afraid that Man Bao will ask about my second child? She knows everything she should know, and everything she shouldn't know, so what is there to be afraid of? Didn't you just know that the person who killed the second child was such a high-ranking official? If she asks us, what shall we say? Old Zhou Tiu held his head and said, where is the prince? That is a figure like the sky. MRSGN was silent for a while and said, this matter has never been our final decision. The Bai family must investigate this matter. Can you still not let others investigate? Maybe it is God's will. She said, although the Lord is big, there are always people who are older than the Lord in this world. People with broad knowledge like the Bai family didn't panic. Why should we panic? That's right, the sky is falling and there is a tall one holding it up, said old Zhou hesitatingly, then you think it's too late for me to light the lamp now? Qian lay directly on the bed, pulled up the quilt to cover herself, turned over and fell asleep. Don't worry about it, let's talk about it tomorrow. Old Zhou fell asleep in a tangled state. Because of something on his mind, he didn't sleep well for most of the night, but Man Bao fell asleep as soon as he touched the pillow. It may be because he received too much information yesterday, and his biological clock didn't work. He didn't wake up until the sun rose. As soon as Man Bao woke up, he immediately got up and washed up briefly, then ran to find her parents. Everyone had eaten breakfast, so Xiao Qian set aside a portion for her alone, and when he saw her, he beckoned, come here and have breakfast. Man Bao ran over to look left and right, and asked, "Where are father and mother?" Ms. Lu sent someone to invite my parents, saying that she wanted to ask them about some things in the field, so my parents went over. Man Bao stared wide-eyed. "When did you pass?" "I just left, I guess I just arrived at this moment." Man Bao turned around and ran, but Xiao Qian couldn't catch him, so he hurriedly chased him out and asked, "You don't want to eat breakfast?" "Don't eat, I'm going to Shen Bao's house to eat." Zhou Lang said, "It's too rude to even go to someone's house for breakfast." Man Bao had already run away in a flash. Bai Shan had been waiting for her, and when he saw her running, he jumped up and asked, "Why are you so late? Did you ask yesterday? My parents have fallen asleep, and there is no time." "Does Tang County Magistrate want to see my parents?" "Yes, when he had breakfast in the morning, he said that he wanted to see your parents, and he wanted to ask them something, so Grandma sent someone to invite them." Bai Shan looked at Man Bao up and down, and asked, "You don't know, you just woke up, haven't you had breakfast yet?" Man Bao nodded. Bai Shan sighed, turned around and grabbed a passing servant and said, "Go to the kitchen and fetch 2 bowls of meat porridge, and send them directly to the study in the grandmother's yard." The servant responded, turned around and went to the kitchen. Bai Shan led her to the study, and Nanny Lu was guarding the door. She glanced at the 2 of them, and let them in. There were only 4 people in the room, Mrs. Lu, Magistrate Tang, and Lao Zhutu and his wife. Seeing the 2 of them coming in together, everyone took it for granted and did not speak. Magistrate Tang continued to look back at old Zhou, and said with a smile, "Master Zhou is invited to come here because he has something to ask." He thought about it and said, 12 years ago, if you came from Yazhu City to Lujiang County, how many roads would pass by your Qilai village?" Man Bao and Bai Shan stared at him from the side. "This seems to be the question they want to ask, right?" Man Bao looked at Bai Shan and made eye contact. "Did you tell him?" Bai Shan shook his head. "No, I haven't talked to him much this morning." After their eyes met, they turned back to look at Lao Zhutu again. The next update will be at 8 o'clock. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 823. Old Joe bowed his head and thought for a while. It seems that there are 3 roads. Apart from the official road, there are 2 roads to Lujiang County, but one of them is far away from our Qilai village, and the other is on the edge of the official road, far away from the official road. Not far away, after the official road is repaired, the road will be easy to walk, and no one will go on that road, and the weeds have been overgrown and abandoned all these years ago. 12 years ago, if you were going to drive into Lujiang County, which way would you go? Old Joe thought for a while and said, at that time, the main road from our Qilai village to Lujiang County hadn't been repaired, and there were 2 roads to drive back. One was the approaching one. It was bumpy but fast. One of them is the deserted one I mentioned, which was often used by merchants in the past, so it is still easy to walk. Qianshi, who was on the side, was silent for a while, and then said, "My sister-in-law just came from Shangzhou at that time, and the journey was tiring. The second child always loves others. He may choose to take the easier road." Magistrate Tang asked, "Is that road connected to the mountain where Zhou Yin and his wife were found?" Old Zhou and the 2 nodded together. Tang County Magistrate invited Man Bao and Bai Shan, "Let's take a look together later." Old Zhou Tiu immediately said, "Master Tang, that road is not easy, why don't you let my 4 boys go with you? He knows the way." Magistrate Tang smiled and nodded, "That would be the best." While talking, Nanny Lu came in with 2 bowls of porridge, and Bai Shan asked her to put the porridge on the table next to where he and Man Bao were sitting. Mrs. Lu understood it at a glance, and said with a smile, "I've been restless all morning, didn't I have enough to eat? Then go to the side room to eat." Then he said to Mother Lu, "Go to the kitchen and get some side dishes and steamed buns. Young people are growing up and eating a lot." Magistrate Tang looked at Man Bao with a smile on his face. He had breakfast at the same table with Bai Shan in the morning, but he didn't feel that Bai Shan was not full. After a little thought, Qian realized that when they went out, Man Bao hadn't even had breakfast in the compound, but she didn't say anything in front of outsiders. Man Bao glanced at County Magistrate Tang, then at his parents, making sure that they would not sneak away when they went down for breakfast, so he took the bowl and Bai Shan to the next room for breakfast. Bai Shan wasn't very hungry, so he didn't move. When she ate half of the bowl, he gave her half of the meat porridge in his bowl, and asked in a low voice, "You actually wanted to go with us? You think we can do it together, did you find something?" Man Bao said, "Try it." Mammy Lu came over with another basket of steamed buns and a plate of pickles. Man Bao thanked him and continued to eat. Bai Shan looked a little hungry, and after finishing the porridge in the bowl, he also ate 2 small steamed buns. Grandma Lu couldn't help pursing her lips when she saw it, and persuaded, "Young master and Miss Man, both eat more. We're going to climb the mountain in a while. There's no hot food to eat in the wilderness." Man Bao and Bai Shan nodded together. Man Bao also said, "Pour some hot water into the water bag, it should still be warm by noon." Grandma Lu answered yes with a smile, and prepared all the dry food and things for them to go out. But this time when going out, not only Daji and Jojo Lang would follow, but Lu Gui, the son of Nanny Lu, would also follow. He didn't take anyone with him, and stood quietly by the car alone. County Magistrate Tang saw him when he was about to get in the car. He couldn't help but pause, and asked, "Who is this person?" Mrs. Lu explained, "This is a domestic servant. Since 4 years ago, he has been leading people to search on the mountain quietly, but he has not found anything until now. He is very familiar with the mountain, so let him take the adult. Let's go together." Magistrate Tang nodded. He got into the car in the courtyard of the Bai family, and no one had seen him except the servants of the Bai family and the olds who took couple. After going out, Bai Shan and Man Bao climbed into the car, but they didn't get into the car, but sat on the shaft with their legs dangling. When a villager saw them, they asked, "Man Bao, why are you going there?" Man Bao said, "Go out for a walk, go to the county town and have a look." The villagers also took it for granted. They just asked curiously, "Why didn't the second son go with you?" Without even thinking about it, Bai Shan said, "He hasn't gotten up yet." "Oh, oh," the villagers understood and said with a smile, "It was too much trouble last night, so you can't get up." Bai Shan was right. Bai Erlang hadn't gotten up yet. When he got up from the bed to find his little friends to play, he found that his 2 little friends had disappeared again, and he went to the county town. Bai Erlang turned around very unhappy and went to play with his other friends. The temple fair is still lively today. A group of teenagers love to join in the fun, so they encourage Bai to go to the temple fair with them. Bai Erlang hesitated and said, "My father forbids me to go. He said that it is fine to go on the day, there is no need to go today. It's also fun at home, and it's also fun when you go out." "Why do you have to separate them?" one person said. "Didn't Bai Shan and the others go out to play too?" "I also saw that the servants of Bai Shan's family went to Dali village, and they seemed to be sending something to the Taoist and the little Taoist, or if your father asked you, you would say that it was to deliver something for Bai Shan and the others." Bai Erlang was so excited that he couldn't help but nodded, "Okay." At this time, Bai Shan and the others' carriage had just driven onto the official road, and Jojo Lang was standing on the shaft and looking at it for a long time before he could see where the road was. Weeds were already overgrown there, and it was basically impossible to see that it was a road. Daji glanced at the road, then tore the carriage off the official road, found an open space near the path and stopped, and then unloaded the carriage. Magistrate Tang also got out of the car. They were the only ones around here, so he didn't have to hide. He stepped forward to look at the road that could vaguely be seen as a road, and asked, "Is it directly connected to the official road?" "No, this is an extended section. If you come from Yazhu City, take the straight one inside and you can go directly to Lujiang County." Zhou Lang took out a sickle to open the way, and Lu Gui followed to help. Magistrate Tang followed them in and asked curiously, "Why is this road deserted?" "After the official road is repaired, no money will be collected, so naturally no one will leave." Zhou Lang tilted his head and thought carefully, and said, "It seems that when I was young, officers and soldiers would set up roadblocks on the official road to collect money. It's dilapidated, so everyone doesn't like to walk. There's a small road next to it. Although it's a bit small, you can still take a carriage. Daekyang, so everyone will go this way." I don't remember when, the adults started to withdraw the officers and soldiers who set up roadblocks, and made us serve hard labor to build official roads. No one walked this small road anymore. It became like this in 1989 or 1989. Magistrate Tang nodded, then turned to Lu Gui and asked, "Have you checked here?" "Lu Guideo, I've been here before, but I couldn't find anything." The next update will be around 9 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 824. He said, "Dahua Mountain is very big. It is not just a mountain. We don't know where Zhou Yin and his wife were killed." Erji said that the things were packed in a small package. They wrapped it carefully in oiled paper. "It's just a little bit, there are many wild animals in the mountains, and the forest is lush and grassy, so it's hard to find." Zhou Lang didn't know until today that there were people looking for things in Dahua Mountain all this time. He looked at Lu Gui with a mentally handicapped look and said, "So you know that Dahua Mountain is big?" Lu Gui glanced at Zhou Lang and remained silent. Bai Shan himself was very surprised. "Brother Lu Gui, aren't you here to take care of Zhuangzi?" Lu Gui bent slightly and said with a smile, "The little one is also in charge of Zhuangzi, and only goes up the mountain to look for him when he is avoiding people." The group of people walked forward with difficulty for a while, and saw a very small road with traces of people walking. Magistrate Tang raised his eyebrows in surprise, and Zhou Lang said, "This is the road. It used to be much bigger than here, but now it's covered with weeds and thorns, so the villagers over there would only pick it up to get to the county town. Things go this way, but cars can't go." Magistrate Tang nodded and asked, "How many villages will take this road?" Zhou Lang thought for a while and said, "2, the ones that are farther away won't enter the county town of Lujiang County." Under Zhou Lang's leadership, Magistrate Tang got a general idea of the situation on the road, and Man Bao and Bai Shan also listened. Magistrate Tang glanced at them and asked, "Do you think Magistrate Bai will take this route to escape?" "Bai Shandao, didn't Mr. Tang already decide that this is the way?" Magistrate Tang smiled, and walked along the road in the direction of Dahua Mountain. Dahua Mountain is not a mountain, but a mountain. The main mountain is 4 mountains connected together. The reason why it is called Dahua Mountain is because the 4 mountains are almost connected together, and it looks like a tiger sleeping on its stomach from a distance. And the biggest tiger's buttocks are facing Qilai village. The 2 tigers' hooves exposed from lying on their stomachs are also facing Qilai village, and the tiger's head is facing the direction of the official road. None of these 4 mountains is small, especially the one on the back of the tiger, which has large forests and dense forests, and some villagers said that they have seen wolves on it. But before Zhou Yin's accident, the villagers of Qilai village loved to go to Dahua Mountain to collect firewood and hunt, because the mountain was big enough. And this narrow path stretches along the foot of Dahua Mountain at the beginning, and then walks forward for about half an hour. The road passes through the neck of Dahua Mountain. Between the official road there is a distance of a mountain between them. Zhou Lang stopped in his footsteps and said, Follow this road and go straight to Lujian County. If you go around here, you can reach the road back to our village. Magistrate Tang looked in the direction he pointed, and found that there was no way to see the way there. He turned his head and looked at Zhou Lang quietly. Zhou Lang coughed lightly and said, "My lord, I found this intersection after searching all the way. I've looked back and forth just now, and it's here." Man Bao suddenly realized, "No wonder fourth brother, you have been walking around here just now, so you were looking for an intersection. This road used to only go to Arkilai village. No one in our village took this road anymore. After 1989, didn't it become like this?" Zhou Lang glanced at the thorn trees, not really wanting to go in, and asked, "Magistrate Tang, do we still have to go in? How about we go to Lujian County? We want to find out the route that Zhou Yin took back then. Why go to Lujian County?" Magistrate Tang looked at this intersection and said, "However, if Magistrate Bai is going to Lujian County with all his heart, he must take this route. When he meets Zhou Yin, he must still be ahead, so do you think Zhou Yin will go forward and take this road when there are pursuers behind him?" Zhou Lang hesitated and said, "Probably not, my uncle is not stupid." Man Bao said, "Ask ERG." Magistrate Tang nodded approvingly, "That's right, I want to ask ERG, it saves effort and is accurate. But this road has to be cleared." He looked at Zhou Lang, then shifted his gaze to Lu Gui. Lu Gui immediately said, "My lord, don't worry, I will bring someone to clean it up tomorrow." Magistrate Tang nodded, then pointed to the thorns and said, "Let's go, let's walk inside." Zhou Lang stared. Magistrate Tang won't wait for the cleanup before leaving. County Magistrate Tang said, "I'm going back to the county office tomorrow, and I'm going back to Yazhu City the day after. I don't have much time to spend here, so I'd better take a look today, especially let Bai Shan take a look." "Why?" Bai Shan and Man Bao, who were falling behind and whispering, also raised their heads to look at him. Magistrate Tang laughed and said, "Because he wants to draw these two roads." Man Bao stared, "Can you still hear us?" "No, it just means that we wise men see the same thing," Magistrate Tang said with a smile. "When the time comes, I'll take the picture and ask Erji, and then I'll send someone to look for it." Zhou Lang worried, "Can you find such a few things on such a big four mountains?" Magistrate Tang thought for a while and said, "People have habitual behaviors and feel safe. Has Zhou Yin ever been to Dahua Mountain before?" Zhou Lang cheered up, scratched his head and said, "I am young, so I have to ask my elder brother and second elder brother. But when I was young, I often came to the mountains to collect firewood, but I didn't dare to go deep. My third elder brother and the others are young. Sometimes I often go into the mountains with the young people in the village to dig pits to catch prey, and occasionally I can catch rabbits or something." Zhou Lang glanced at Man Bao and said, "My uncle is famous for being naughty and clever in the village, so he should come to the mountains often. Who are the people who often go up the mountain with him?" Magistrate Tang looked at Man Bao and Bai Shan and said, "I can't go to your village to ask, but it's much more convenient for you to ask. Ask those people, where do they go most often? Place, the farthest place, where do you usually rest on the mountain? Is there any place you like to stay in particular?" Man Bao understood. "Do you suspect that my father hid things in places he is familiar with?" But at that time he had been away from home for many years, and that was when he just came back. Magistrate Tang smiled and said, "No matter how many years have passed, familiar places will always be familiar and have more trust. I think your father is very bold and careful, maybe he really hid in the place he walked by." Man Bao and Bai Shan looked at each other, nodded together and promised, "Don't worry, we will leave this matter to us." Magistrate Tang nodded in satisfaction. Then he signaled Zhou Lang and Lu Gui to open the way. "This road is really full of miscellaneous trees and thorny thorns, and the grass grows wantonly, making walking very difficult. Zhou Lang became a little annoyed when he walked away, but County Magistrate Tang looked at the mountains and forests with relish, and said, "Why don't we just walk back like this?" Thursday Lang. Daji went to pick up the sickle in Lu Gui's hand, and said, "I'll come, you go and drive the car over there from the main road and wait." Lu Gui. Good night. I went out for a trip today, so I didn't add more. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 825. Even if Lu Gui is not willing, he has to listen to Daji. Handing the sickle to Daji, Lu Gui went back to find the carriage. Daji picked up the knife and cut down some thorny twigs. Bai Shan and Man Bao broke the branches from nowhere, hooked and pulled the felled twigs aside to clear the way. Zhou Silang was more agile than Daji. After all, he was used to farm work, so he cut off some thorny tall weeds, and he could sweep them aside with a sweep of his feet. Magistrate Tang stood behind Bai Shan and Man Bao and watched with relish, and asked, "You guys are pretty neat at your work, why, have you done it before?" Man Bao nodded, "We have our own little zhuangzi, and we used to work in the fields, it's not a big deal." County Magistrate Tang glanced at their increasingly skillful movements, nodded and said, "I see." Because the road was difficult, they walked very slowly. When they were hungry, they stepped on the long grass, sat on the grass and took out the dry food. Magistrate Tang sat under the shade of a tree, looked up at the top of the mountain and said, "Don't tell me, this mountain is really big and dense. I want to find something here." He shook his head. Of course Man Bao and Bai Shan knew it was difficult, otherwise Lu Gui wouldn't have been searching for 4 years without finding it. They didn't go out from the road full of thorns and trees until the sunset. Lu Gizao was already waiting at the other side of the road with his car. Seeing them coming out of a pile of grass, he breathed a sigh of relief. No one knew better than him how difficult it was to walk on Dahua Mountain. Because they were looking for things, they sometimes searched hundreds of feet in a day. If the road is easy to walk, you may be able to find 300 or 400 feet. County Magistrate Tang slapped off the leaves and grass clippings that fell on his head in some embarrassment, looked back at the road that was still overgrown with weeds, shook his head and said to Bai Shan and Man Bao, "You work hard, you have to ask about Zhou Yin's activity habits on the mountain, otherwise, finding a package of such a big thing on such a large, no, 4 mountains, is tantamount to finding a needle in a haystack." Man Bao thought he was wrong. The sea is bigger than here, and the needles are smaller than what we are looking for. Magistrate Tang knocked on her head and said, "Tell me about it after you find it." He looked up at Dahua Mountain again, and sighed with his hands behind his back, "It's been too long, otherwise we could have searched for some traces to increase our judgment." Man Bao and Bai Shan also looked up at Dahua Mountain, sighed together, "Yes, it has been 12 years, and there is nothing left after a rain." Man Bao was startled thinking of this, and turned to Zhou Lang, "Fourth brother, did it rain after my father died?" "Yeah, it's raining. It's the beginning of summer, when it rains the most. My uncle didn't come back that night. We were worried that it would be rainy on the road. The reason why they and I went to Dahua Mountain was to touch it. The trap I dug before, the second is to find wild mushrooms on the mountain. Only when it rained the day before, will there be wild mushrooms on the mountain. Not long after we brought my uncle back, it rained again. It was also because of this that my elder brother was unable to report to the officials in the county in time, and then the officials came to our village. Even County Magistrate Tang couldn't help but said, "God blesses you and us too. If it hadn't been for the rain, the other party might have found the things at that time." After all, no matter how big the mountains and forests are, you can always find what Zhou Yin hid by following the traces that Zhou Yin walked through. Even if he cleaned up the traces, there are many talented people in the world, as long as they walk, there must be traces. When it rained, there was nothing left. At that time, it was very good for them. County Magistrate Tang and Man Bao Beishan climbed into the carriage, and Kilai village is not far from here, and the carriage will arrive in 2/4 of an hour. As soon as the carriage arrived at the entrance of the village, Daji reined in the horse, Man Bao and Bai Shan jumped out of the carriage, Daji handed the reins to Lu Gui, and followed them. Of course, Zhou Lang went home with his sister, so there were only County Magistrate Tang and Lu Gui left in the car, and County Magistrate Tang couldn't speak yet. He got out of the car all the way back to the yard of Bai's house and asked, "Is Daji a part of your family?" Lu Gui bent down and said, "The head of the family dare not raise trilogy." Magistrate Tang smiled, but did not continue on this topic. Bai Shan followed Man Bao to Lao Zhou's house, and the two went to talk to Lao Zhou and Mrsgn. After a while, Zhou Dalan, Zhou Lang, and Zhou Lang were called in. The three of them were the same age as Zhou Yin in the family, especially Tuesday Lang and Wednesday Lang, who used to run behind their uncle's butt. The two thought for a while and said, "We do know a few places, but Zhou Hu is the one who has the best time with my uncle. As long as my uncle goes up the mountain, Zhou Hu will definitely follow him. Therefore, Zhou Hu should follow the places that my uncle knows." All know. Man Bao stood up and was going to find Zhou Hu. Zhou Lang hurriedly grabbed her and said, "The sun is almost going down." "It's because the sun is going down that we're going to look for it," Man Bao said. "In this way, if we are ready tonight, we can go up the mountain in the morning." Old Zhou asked, "Are you going up the mountain tomorrow?" Man Bao nodded, "Tomorrow is the last day. We will go back to Yazhu city to study the day after tomorrow. If we can't find it tomorrow, then we don't know when we will get it next time." Bai Shan counted with his fingers, "We have to wait until Qingming is on holiday, and then ask for 2 more days, usually Mr. Qingming will allow you to ask for leave." Man Bao also made the calculations, and then said, "This year Qingming and Shaanxi are connected together, so we should be able to take a few more days off, but there is still a month." The two said to Lao Zhou together, "It's been too long. Old Zhou Tiu just didn't want the 2 children to get involved in this matter, so he couldn't help muttering, 'You guys are going to study, why do you always want to take a vacation?'" The two of them looked at Lao Zhou innocently together. Old Zhou waved his hand and said, Go back early, and don't talk too much to Zhou Hu." Man Bao agreed. But when they went to Zhou Hu's house, as soon as they saw Zhou Hu, Man Bao looked around and found no one, so he said to Zhou Hu, "Brother Zhou Hu, may I ask you to do me a favor?" Zhou Hu asked with a smile, "What's the matter?" "Did you often go up the mountain with my own father to play?" Man Bao said, "Can you take us for a walk?" Zhou Hu's expression was a little dazed, and his ears were ringing, as if he didn't hear what Man Bao said, and he seemed to hear clearly again, as if he was in a dream, but it wasn't a dream. It took him a while to ask in a daze, "Who did you just talk about?" Man Bao lowered his voice and said, "It's my dear father, Zhou Yin." Zhou Hu opened his mouth wide, then covered Man Bao's mouth, looked around, first saw Bai Shan standing aside, and then saw Daji standing not far away. He was so nervous that his hands and feet beat shaking, asked in a low voice, "Man Bao, who are you listening to?" Next update around 4 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 826. Man Bao's mouth was covered, and he stretched out his hand to pull his palm off, but found that Zhou Hu's big palm was tightly covered, and he couldn't help looking at Bai Shan for help. Bai Shan stepped forward to help pull his hand off. Only then did Zhou Hu come to his senses, and quickly let go of his hand. Man Bao exhaled and said, "My parents told me, brother Zhou Hu, can you stop being so surprised?" Zhou Hu swallowed, looked at Bai Shan, then at Man Bao, and couldn't help asking, "Why did your parents tell you this?" Man Bao just looked at him, one big and one small stared at each other in silence for a moment. Man Bao also lowered his voice and said, "Brother Zhou, don't tell anyone about this, and don't tell MRS who either. Zhou, the whole village, which households don't know about this?" But meeting Shang Manbao's eyes, he nodded. The three left Zhou's house, walked to the edge of the field and found a place to sit down in a row, facing the setting sun that was about to go down the mountain. Daji silently stood behind them to protect them. Zhou also looked around carefully, and then asked, "Why are you asking this?" "I just want to go and see. I asked my elder brother and them. They said that the one who had the best time with my father before was brother Zhou. Every time my father went into the mountains, you followed him." Zhou said, "He not only went to Dehu mountain, but also to other mountains. If you want to see the places he has been to, then I will take you to other places for a walk." "No, I'll go to Dehu mountain." Zhou frowned. Man Bao looked at him persistently. "Brother Zhou, please take me to see where my father likes to go to Dehu mountain the most, the place he goes the most, or the place he has been to the farthest. Okay, it is good." Zhou was silent for a moment, unable to withstand Man Bao's gaze. He could only nod. "Okay, but there are quite a lot of places, do you have time?" Man Bao cheered up, and said, "We will go out early tomorrow morning, try to finish the walk in one day." Zhou just smiled and felt that this was impossible, because his father was a hunter, and he and Zhou Yin had often been taken into the mountains before, and he had to stay in the mountains for a night in the deepest place he had ever entered. But he didn't tell Man Bao that he planned to take her in for a few places, but she was tired and sleepy, so she naturally gave up. Man Bao didn't know Zhou's plan. She happily left with Bai Shan, and discussed with KK after returning home, "I will rely on your help tomorrow." KK said, "I will try my best, but now I can only scan an area with a radius of 800 meters from you as the origin at one time. With the size of Dehu mountain, I am afraid it will take a lot of time." Man Bao clenched his fists and said, "It's okay, I've been waiting for 12 years, and Lu Gui and the others have been looking for it for 4 years. I don't mind spending more time looking for it." KK said, "It would be great if the host can upgrade more." Man Bao was ashamed. "It's really a shame to be so improvised every time. I will work hard in the future." Keek responded and stopped reminding the host. Infinite fighting spirit was ignited in Man Bao's heart, and he got up early the next morning to enter the mountain. Of course Zhou Lang followed. This time even Zhou Lang followed. Seeing that Man Bao was about to go into the mountain empty-handed, Keek blinked for a moment. Man Bao came back to his senses, and immediately turned around to carry out her exclusive small back basket and small hoe. Zhou Lang stared at him. "You went into the mountains to find things, and you still want to dig flowers and plants." Man Bao said solemnly, "Don't delay, fourth brother, you have to know that everything in the world complements each other, and two things that seem to have nothing to do with each other are inextricably linked." "Zhou Lang, I thought about it all the time, but I didn't figure it out. What does looking for the things left by my uncle have to do with you digging those flowers and plants?" "That's because you're not smart enough, and you don't know enough." Man Bao put on his back and left. Zhou Lang said to Zhou Lang, "Okay, take Man Bao if you want, and don't make trouble with her." Zhou Lang died unjustly. Who the hell is messing about without doing business? But Tuesday Lang obviously doesn't care about his emotions. In the past 2 days, except for the group of people who don't know the truth, from Lao's Hutu to Friday Lang, all the old Zhou's family has been careful with Manbao and responded to every request. Afraid that she would be shocked by her life experience. So don't say that she just wants to go up the mountain with a basket and a hoe to dig medicinal herbs. She just wants to pick the stars in the sky. Zhou Dalin and the others have to find a way to get her a similar one to coax her. Zhou Lang followed silently, and at the entrance of the village, Bai Shan and Daji had been waiting. but Bai Erlang also ran out of the house. He glared at the two of them angrily and said, "I finally caught you," and said, "What did you do behind my back these 2 days, why can't you be found?" "Bai Shandao, we're going up the mountain to look for things, we're so tired, do you want to go?" Bai Erlang stared at Man Bao's back basket, surprised, "You have to bring so many people with you when you go up the mountain to dig medicinal materials? How precious are those medicinal materials?" Man Bao rolled his eyes, lowered his voice and said, "Ganoderma lucidum." Bai Erlang widened his eyes, and immediately said, "Impossible, how can there be Ganoderma lucidum on the mountain?" "How is it impossible?" Man Bao said, "Zhizheng Valley, our Dahua mountain is so big, maybe there is a long one, has anyone seen it in it?" "Who?" Man Bao pointed at Zhou and said, "Brother Zhou." Bai Erlang immediately looked at Zhou. Zhou bit the bullet and nodded, "That's right." Bai Erlang's heart moved, but he still asked, "Then why didn't you pick it then?" Zhou opened his mouth and looked at Man Bao. Man Bao said, "Because he doesn't know whether it is poisonous or not, and when he goes in again, the Ganoderma has already been eaten by some wild beast." Bai Erlang looked regretful. Man Bao said solemnly, "I think that since the Ganoderma lucidum can be found once on the mountain, there must be a second one, and a third one, so I'm going to go to the mountain to look for it. Do you want to go with me?" Bai Erlang thought about it. Bai Shan said, "Are you still going to the Taoist temple today? The temple fair is over, what else am I going to do?" Bai Shan, "Then you have nothing to do if you stay in the village, why not go up the mountain with us?" Bai Erlang thought so he left with them. After walking halfway, Lu Gui followed with a sickle and the three of them, Bai Erlang couldn't help but look back at them. Bai Shan explained, "The field hasn't started working yet, I think brother Lu Gui and the others are idle, so why not go up the mountain together?" Bai Erlang asked in a low voice, "What if I don't find anything?" "If you don't find it, it means you haven't met your destiny. Just look for it next time." Bai Shan was also anxious before, but he thought about it last night and felt that what Man Bao said was right. 12 years have passed, so why rush this day and night? Bai Erlang was stunned, "You brought so many people up the mountain to mess around with you, doesn't your cousin scold you?" Bai Shan shook his head. Bai Erlang was particularly envious, grandmother Tang and Aunt Tang are so nice. Bai Shan and Man Bao turned their heads to look at him together and said, "Your grandmother and mother are the ones who dote on you the most, okay." Next update around 6 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 827. Bai Erlang muttered something in a low voice, but the two of them didn't hear clearly. They were about to ask him when they heard Zhou say, "We used to come here to collect firewood." Everyone looked over together. This is the slope of Dahua mountain not far from Qilai village. It is the place where you enter the mountain. The trees here are sparse and the grass is not very dense, so you can walk without opening a road. But Zhou Lang sighed, "It's not good now. Weeds and thorns have grown a lot, and no one has cleaned them up. Before the Mid-Autumn Festival, everyone would come here to cut trees or collect firewood. Those thorns were cut down in the forest. Dry it in the sun for 20 to 30 days, and when winter comes, it can be dragged home and chopped into firewood for burning." But since 12 years ago, the people of Qilai village no longer went to this mountain to collect firewood, let alone go hunting. Over time, these trees and weeds grew wantonly. Lu Gui took 2 steps forward, and whispered to Daji, "We've looked for this place before, but there isn't one." Daji walked up to Bai Shan and shook his head slightly at him. Bai Shan casually said, "This place is too close to the entrance of the village, there must be no one here, let's go further inside." Bai Erlang didn't think it was there either, and followed the crowd forward, but Man Bao had already connected with KK. Although she knew the possibility was very low, she still let it take her as the center and keep scanning forward. Lu Gui and the others started looking inward from here. In order not to miss anything, they searched in almost inch by inch, so they have searched in this area. And Keek didn't find any species that he hadn't seen before, or the special thing that Manbao and the others were looking for. As they moved forward, Johu gradually felt that something was wrong. He was a hunter, so he didn't dare to say how powerful he was, but some traces could still be seen. He looked at the bushes, looked at the traces around him, and couldn't help but say, "It's strange. No one in our village has entered Dahua Mountain. How can there be traces of people walking through this Dahua Mountain? And it's still recent." Lu Gui lowered his eyes and led the people behind him quietly. Jojo Lang glanced at Lu Gui, and said indifferently, "Maybe it's people from other villages, and people from our village won't come in. The long-term workers in the village will always come in, right?" Johu thought so too. Johu stood in the woods and paused for a while, looked left and right to identify the direction, and finally led Manbao and the others to the southwest. He said with a smile, "We used to dig pits and set traps there in the past. Know if those traps are still there?" Lu Gui and the others who were left behind silently answered, "Yes, not only yes, but also very good. I did not cheat them much." Johu took Manbao and the others to see those traps, thinking that Manbao wanted to know something about his own father, and told her some interesting stories about the traps they dug before. Manbao listened, and went to observe the surroundings. Lu Gui and the others had searched most of these places, but found nothing, and neither did Keek. Johu saw that they didn't intend to stop, and Zhou Yulang also pulled him and whispered, "Just take them to watch, the more detailed the better." Johu could only lament that the old Zhou family spoiled Manbao so much that they spent so much time playing with their children. He led Manbao and continued to walk in, farther and farther, and in different directions, gradually out of the range that Lu Gui and the others had searched, and the further in, the species were different from the outside, and Keek began to broadcast what it found of new species. And because of the large number of people, when a bird flew over their heads, Keek also reported, "The birds are not included, and it is recommended to include them." When Manbao looked up, he saw a bird flapping its wings and flying away, but it disappeared before their eyes in the blink of an eye. Manbao. Keek was quite sorry, out of the scanning range. Manbao secretly breathed a sigh of relief and continued to move forward. Keek, more than a dozen plants that have never been seen before are found 200 meters away on the left. It is recommended that the host collect them. Manbao looked for them and found them under KK's guidance. She felt a little familiar, and after looking at them, she asked, "Isn't this beartail grass?" Keek scanned the collection history, and affirmed, "No collection. Of course it's not included. It's written in medical books. I seem to have seen it in Shennong's Materia Medica," Manbao answered in his heart while taking out a hoe to weed. Because it is necessary to collect the soil habits of plant growth, etc., Manbao always brings more soil when hoeing. She habitually only hoed 3 plants and kept the rest. I picked the big leaves to wrap their roots, pulled a piece of grass to tie them up, and put them in the basket. Bai Shan's, Lu Gui, Daji, and Zhou Yulang rummaged around to see if there was any hiding place nearby. Bai Erlang thought they were looking for Ganoderma lucidum, so he tossed around, until the grass leaves flew around, but he couldn't find anything. Manbao asked KK, "Is there anything we are looking for?" KK said, "There are none within a radius of 800 meters. Manbao was slightly disappointed, so she looked around. She thought for a while, and said to Bai Shanbao, "Let's move on, there might not be one here." Bai Shan thought for a while, pulled Jojo Lang aside and asked, "Where did you find the body?" Jojo Lang was stunned for a moment and then pondered, "It's been too long, I don't remember much, but I'm not here." Jojo Lang looked around, and finally pointed in one direction and said, "Over there, there is a shaded place, and I like to grow mushrooms every time it rains, so we always go there to look for them." Bai Shanbian and Man Bao said, let's look for it over there. Man Bao nodded, called Zhou, pointed in that direction and asked, Brother Zhou, where did he like to go before? Zhou was stunned for a moment. Of course he knew where that direction was. He looked down at Man Bao, then turned to look at Zhou Lang. Seeing Zhou Lang nodding slightly to him, Zhou nodded silently and said, we often go there to find some wild goods. Man Bao said, then let's go over there and look for it. Seeing that they were looking for a place like this, Lu Gui immediately changed his brows. I'm afraid I won't be able to find it like this. Daji glanced at him and said, if the young master searched for it inch by inch like you, then I can leave the search to you. Why do you have to go into the mountain yourself? Lu Gui fell silent. Everyone changed places. Keek scanned all the way, but he didn't find anything, but he found several plants that hadn't been included in the collection. Manbao only agreed to Keek the day before, and of course he had to do it, so whenever he received the broadcast, he had to go to collect it with his back on his back. When encountering large plants, such as trees, she collected branches, soil, and bark. Even Zhou Lang and others who knew the inside story were dumbfounded. Did Manbao go to the mountains to find evidence, or did they go to the mountains to collect medicine? Yes, from their point of view, these strange things that Manbao collects are all medicines. The next update will be around 9 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 828. Shuttled in the mountains and forests for more than half an hour, going around, even Zhou Lang, who was still sure before, got lost, but Zhou took them to the place in a daze. Zhou Lang looked around, then stared at a mountain wall for a long time, nodded immediately and said, yes, this is here, this side is overcast, I used to pick wild mushrooms here when I was young. He took a cautious look at Man Bao, and finally walked to a place a little away from the mountain wall and said, at that time, uncle and aunt were lying here. Man Bao walked over and looked at her in silence for a while, then Bai Shan came to her side and reached out to hold her hand. Bai Er came up from behind, looked at the two of them, and at the silent people around him, and asked, who are you talking about? Who is lying here? Bai Shan glared at him and said, no one, this place is yin, maybe there is Ganoderma lucidum, let's look around. Lu Gui and the others left in response, because they really hadn't looked for this place before. But Man Bao already knew the result from KK, there are no plants here, not even any plants that can be collected. Man Bao didn't leave, but stood there looking around, then turned to ask Bai Shan, where do you think they came here from? Bai Shan tried his best to distinguish the direction, and thought about the location of the path. He pointed in a certain direction and said, from there? I don't know which part of the road he came from, and it may be this way. When people flee for their lives, they always run around and lose their direction, especially in the deep forest, where the direction is not easy to determine. What if they start to turn around in the mountains by themselves? Without traces, they couldn't judge the direction they came from at all. Man Bao said, since we can't judge, let's look in one direction and one direction. Man Bao picked up a branch by himself and said, come on, let's choose a direction. After finishing speaking, he threw the branch into the air, and one end of the branch pointed in one direction. Man Bao pointed and said, let's go, let's look this way first. Everyone, so hasty? Bai Erlang, who was rummaging happily, raised his head in disbelief and asked, the place has changed again? Didn't it mean that this land is in the shade? Do you not search carefully? No, the Ganoderma must not be here, Man Bao said with certainty. Bai Erlang, how do you know? Man Bao glanced at him and said, because I'm a doctor. I'm more familiar with medicinal materials than you. If I say I'm not here, I won't be here. After finishing speaking, she led everyone to the direction she had just chosen, and Bai Shan hurriedly followed. As soon as the two of them left, the others followed naturally. Not only Bai Erlang, but also Zhou, who noticed it now. They didn't seem to come to remember Zhou Yin, but rather to look for something. He pondered for a moment, didn't ask anything, and followed silently. After thinking carefully along the way, he said, "It will be deeper if you go further, and we will go in occasionally to hunt." Man Bao asked, "Go further, where has he been?" Zhou Hu said, "I'll take you there." Bai Erlang got a little angry, he snorted and walked aside, walking forward sullenly. He also heard that they didn't come in to look for Ganoderma lucidum at all. A group of people continued to go in, and the road inside was occasionally difficult to walk, and some of them couldn't pass through, so they needed to use a sickle to open the way. Man Bao occasionally squatted down to dig some flowers and plants, and then Lu Gui and the others would take this opportunity to rummage around. Often when Man Bao finished digging and they couldn't find the things, Man Bao would walk around and then move on. Lu Gui thought it was nonsense to look for things like this, but Bai Shan and Daji didn't speak out against it, and the old Zhou's family had always been in a very strange attitude. "I hope they can find something, but I don't want Man Bao to get too involved in this matter," so the hesitation between the two is a laissez-faire attitude. As long as they stop, they will rummage hard, hoping to find something, but as soon as Man Bao leaves, they will follow immediately, and they will never stay for a moment longer. Zhou Hu naturally favored Zhou Zhoulang brothers. Lu Gui followed behind with 3 of his subordinates, but in the end he could only become depressed like Bai Erlang. They ate lunch in the woods, rested for a while, and continued until the sun was about to set. Except for Man Bao, who had a good harvest, they found nothing. Bai Erlang looked at them coldly. Zhou Hu said, "We have to go out, otherwise it will be dangerous if we can't go out after dark. There are wolves in this mountain." Zhou Zhoulang made a decision, nodded and said, "Go, let's go out." Man Bao and Bai Shan were rather unwilling, but they had no choice but to follow them out. Bai Erlang walked ahead sullenly, seeing that the two of them hadn't come to coax him, he deliberately stopped, and when they came up, he hummed beside them. Bai Shan said, "Stop humming, it's for your own good not to tell you. If you don't believe me, go back and ask your uncle, see if he will beat you up." Bai Erlang stared, "My father knows." Bai Shan snorted, "He knew it earlier than me, and in more detail than me. The adults kept it from us before. Then you came to hide it from me again." Bai Erlang pointed at them and said, "It's a shame that you are still reading sage books. Don't you know that you should not do to others what you don't want to be done to others?" Man Bao said, "This matter has nothing to do with you, so naturally I can't tell you, otherwise, if I tell you, what should you do if you are in danger?" "I don't care, I just want to know." Bai Shan and Man Bao feel that they still love each other, so they decide not to tell him. However, Bai Erlang's curiosity was aroused, he circled around them, and said, "Well, I will tell you a secret, and you also tell me the secret." Man Bao asked curiously, "What secret do you have?" Bai Erlang, "You promise me first." Bai Shandao, "We know everything about you, there is no secret, don't lie to us." "Who said there is no such thing? I discovered this yesterday," Bai Erlang said, "We went to a Taoist temple yesterday, but guess what happened?" Man Bao and Bai Shan were stunned, and asked, "What's wrong?" "Magistrate Tang is not in the temple, and the person who replaced him in the temple is his entourage, the one named Mingli," Bai Erlang said. "A gentry from the next county came to offer incense, so he wanted to see the county magistrate Tang, but Tang County Ling said that he was tired and didn't want to see guests, but I thought it was wrong. Does county magistrate Tang still get tired?" Bai Shan's intuition was bad, and he asked with numbness in his scalp, "And then?" "Then I took people to the window of Magistrate Tang, only to find that Mingli was inside, wearing the home clothes of Magistrate Tang, sitting on a wooden couch that only Magistrate Tang could sit on, and drinking pretending to be Tang magistrate. Bai Erlang said, "Why did I come back so late last night? I just squatted there to see when Tang magistrate would come back, but Tang magistrate never came back, so Deoxu sent me driven down the mountain." Manbao and Bai Shan. Good night. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 829. The two felt that it was going to be bad, and asked quickly, "Then who else knows about this?" Bai Erlang said, "Everyone knows." Bai Shan and Manbao looked at each other, silently weeping in their hearts to County Magistrate Tang, and said without hesitation, "Magistrate Tang must be doing something to keep a secret." Bai Erlang became excited. "You think so too, don't you?" He said, "That's what I thought, that's why I waited in the temple all the time, but unfortunately he didn't come back when it was almost dark, and Deosu was so ruthless and sent us down." Manbao said solemnly, "You don't even know what Tang County Magistrate is doing, it's not a secret." "That doesn't count." Bai Erlang became anxious, and shouted, "This is at least half a secret, and you have to tell me half of it." Bai Shan, "Ask your father." "I didn't tell my father the secret. Why should I ask him?" "You can't keep your word, or I won't play with you next time." Bai Shan and Manbao looked at each other, and the two exchanged glances. Bai Shan said, "Okay, let me tell you a half secret, we are looking for a big treasure recently." "What big baby?" "The treasure left by Brother Joe's uncle fell into the woods, but he didn't know where it was, so you have to look for it slowly. You are not allowed to tell others about this. Now the adults of our three families know, and only the adults of the three families are looking for them." Bai Erlang glanced suspiciously at the crowd, "Then why didn't my family send anyone here?" "Aren't they Lugui?" Bai Shan said, "My family is no different from yours, they are the same. If you don't believe it, you can go back and ask your cousin." Bai Erlang looked at him for a while, then at Daji again, and decided not to look for his father, because he always felt that this was a trap. After exchanging a half-secret, Bai Erlang reconciled with them, complaining non-stop along the way, "You still lied to me that you were looking for Ganoderma lucidum, but my husband said so, gentlemen are magnanimous, how can you lie?" Manbao said, "I'm trying my best to be a gentleman, but I haven't achieved it yet. I will work harder in the future." Bai Erlang, "Liar." Bai Shan on the side nodded quietly. Manbao seemed to have noticed it, and turned his head to stare at his head. Bai Shan continued to move forward without looking sideways. They walked too deep and came out too late, and it was dark after only half a day of walking. Zhou had expected it, and he took Jojo Lang and Jojo Lang and began to pull hay along the road to make torches. He pressed the torch tightly, and each of the three made two. Lugui and the others obviously often went to the woods to find things under slander, so they touched it separately. After finishing the torches, Zhou dipped some lamp oil that he brought with him on the firm torches, and lit 3 torches as soon as it got dark. Everyone took one at the front, middle, and back, and went out one by one. Walk. It was already very late when they got out of the mountain. Both the Bai family and the Zhou family sent people to wait outside. As soon as Jojo Lang saw them, he immediately went up to meet them and asked, "Why is it so late? My parents are very worried." Tuesday Lang said, "It's too deep." Jojo Lang lowered his voice and asked, "Did you find it?" Tuesday Lang shook his head slightly. Zhou Lang was slightly disappointed. The servants of the Bai family who came also picked up their young masters and escorted them back home. Tuesday Lang took Zhou home to be a guest. Manbao thought about it, and asked Bai Shan to give Lugui to them. "We are going back to Yizhu City tomorrow, why don't we let brother Lugui and brother Zhou get to know each other, and Zhou will get to know each other later?" Brother who can let him take brother Lu Gui up the mountain for a stroll when he is free? Bai Shan asked her, do you want to tell brother Zhou Hu? You don't need to say everything, so as not to drag him into it, just talk about looking for something my father left behind. Man Bao said, it's the same as dialogue too. Bai Shan nodded, then went to Lu Gui and said, send Miss Man back. Lu Gui was stunned for a moment, then looked at Man Bao. The three brothers from the old Zhou family are all here, and there is also Zhou Hu, can he give it to him? Bai Shan coughed lightly, and Lu Gui quickly walked towards Man Bao. Man Bao smiled and said, brother Lu Gui, please stay and have a meal together tonight. Only then did Lu Gui react belatedly, and hastily complied. Back at Zhou's house, MRSGN personally cooked a meal for them. The others had already eaten and knew that they had something to say, so MRSGN waved her hand. MRS Feng and the others took their children and went back to their respective rooms. Only the Zhou brothers, Man Bao, Zhou Hu, and Lu Gui were left in the main room. Qian didn't want Man Bao to come forward for this kind of thing, so he called her out and asked Zhou Lang to talk to Zhou Hu. She stuffed Man Bao into the kitchen and said, I'm going to school tomorrow, sleep well tonight, and put away my things again. Your brothers will have to worry about these things at home. He said again, you little girl can't eat well sitting there. I asked your sister-in-law to save food for you, so you can eat in the kitchen. Man Bao took a bowl and sat in the kitchen to eat, looking at her mother while eating. Mother, don't you like me investigating this matter? Qian Shi sighed and said, I know that no child would like their parents to die in such an unexplained manner, but mother is very afraid that something will happen to you. She glanced out and said in a low voice, then what kind of king of Yizhu? Just listening to it is scary. Mom, I've seen him before, and he's not as powerful as we thought. Wasn't he embarrassingly killed by an assassin? Speaking of assassins, Man Bao's heart moved. Legend has it that the assassins who assassinated the king of Yizhu were refugees from the old years. After all, the accident of Bai Shan's father was related to Jian Weiyan. I don't know if those people have anything in their hands. MRSGN sighed and said, you don't think he is very powerful, but mother thinks he is bigger than the sky. You see, the Bai family has countless servants and has raised such a powerful person as Daji. MRS Lu has kept the secret for many years. They even dared to catch the spies who came to investigate the case. Isn't their family powerful? But they still have to worry about facing the king of Yizhu, and they dare not take one more step. Compared to the Bai family, our family is an ant, and compared to the king of Yizhu, our family is not even an ant. Man Bao pursed his lips. Mother, I think what you said is right, but it's not right. Qian asked, what's wrong? Man Bao thought about it carefully, and said, I am a human being, and I also want to be a human being, not an ant. Qian Shi was startled and was speechless for a while. After a long time, she stretched out her hand to touch her face and sighed, you are a good boy, a very smart boy. In the future, you may really be able to be a person, and you can lead our whole family to be a person. Then you have to remember, you have to live, because only a living person is a human being, Qian said, otherwise, if you die, what you are and what you are not is completely up to you. Man Bao nodded fiercely, met her mother's eyes, and said seriously, Mother, I remember, I will always live well. The next update will be around 2 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 830. The relationship between Zhou Hu and the old Zhou family has always been good, not only in the past, but in the past few years because of his wife's dystocia. The old Zhou family has helped him a lot cured. So on Tuesday Lang just mentioned a topic and he agreed, without asking what they were looking for. The Zhou brothers breathed a sigh of relief, and reached out to pat Zhou Hu on the shoulder. Lu Gui also breathed a sigh of relief, because the people in Qilai village kept secret about Zhou Yin and hardly talked about Dehua Mountain. The only person they could find was Master Bai. but Mr. Bai probably never even set foot on the foot of Dahua mountain in his life. How could he know where Zhou Yin and his wife died, and where in the forest did he often go? So they could only search inch by inch from here. He didn't know about others. Anyway, Lu Gui was a little desperate to find. It is really too difficult. Although Zhou Yin didn't necessarily hide things in places he had been to, it would be much more convenient to have someone familiar with Dahushan lead the search. The three parties agreed on this, and of course, this matter was to be kept from the villagers. Man Bao finished his supper and knew from the fourth brother that Zhou Hu had agreed, so he went back to the house and went to bed with peace of mind. She had to go to Yazhu city early tomorrow morning. It was still Zhou Zhoulang and Daji who drove a carriage alone, first went to Lujiang County to pick up Mr. Zhuang, and then turned to Yazhu city. This time, Mr. Zhuang did not go to the temple fair in Qilai village, but went home. Only 3 days later, he saw the three children again, and he always felt that they were a little different. Well, Bai Er didn't change much, but Man Bao and Bai Shan were much quieter, not as noisy as before, and they didn't know what they were thinking while sitting. Zhou Zhoulang has already taken down the car seat and asked Mr. Zhuang to get on the car. Mr. Zhuang nodded slightly, and beckoned Bai Erdao, Erlang, come to Mr. I will test your homework for the past few days. Bai Er tensed up immediately. He sneaked a glance at Bai Shan and Man Bao, and saw that they gave him helpless looks, so he had no choice but to bite the bullet and go forward. The spring day was still short, so they only stopped to eat some dry food at noon, but after half a day, Bai Er had said everything he could and couldn't say. Mr. Zhuang sighed inwardly, took a look at Man Bao and got into the car. Bai Erlang knew only a little, but Mr. Zhuang knew a lot. He didn't know that Bai Qi, Bai Shan's father, had a relationship with Zhou Yin, but he had already vaguely guessed Man Bao's life experience, and Zhou Yin's death was not simple. He had been in Qilai village for too long. Not long after Zhou Yin's death, Master Bai found Mr. Zhuang because he wanted to find a husband for his eldest son. Mr. Zhuang visited Qilai village in advance. Seeing that the folk customs here are quite simple, the scenery is not bad, and the treatment given by the Bai family is also good, so he agreed. Later, he went from teaching Bai Dalan alone to building a school by the river, and began to teach children in several nearby villages, and his contacts with the villagers became closer. At that time, although the people in Qilai village had kept secrets about Zhou Yin, they hadn't learned how to hide it, so he always felt that there was a secret in it, so he couldn't help but ask Master Bai. What surprised him was that he felt that Master Bai also knew about this matter, but Master Bai also participated in the concealment. For Mr. Bai's character, Mr. Zhuang still agrees with him, so he doesn't ask any more, but there are some things that you can always know even if you don't ask after you live for a long time. For example, the old Zhou Yu, who is stingy and loves his children and grandchildren more, is the only exception to his young daughter Man Bao. He fell ill several times, and the adults in the old Zhou's family were facing a big enemy, as if something big was about to happen. Obviously other children in the family, even Sanya and Situ, who were younger than Man Bao, got sick, so they were not so restless. As things piled up, Mr. Zhuang vaguely guessed something. It's just that he hasn't checked it all the time, and he doesn't want to prove it. Bai Erlang just added some evidence and more guesses to his guess. Mr. Zhuang thought about it halfway, and finally decided not to say anything, not to ask anything, and just let the children go. They returned to Yazhu city before sunset. Now they are getting older and more energetic. After a day of driving, the three of them are not tired at all. So I went to fetch water and started to tidy up my house and study. Although they have only been away for 5 days, Chunri is easy to get dirty. Everyone cleaned up the room, and the cook finished the meals. Mr. Zhuang ate with them, and then said, "You guys bring me your homework later, and I will go to bed after I read it. I have to go to school tomorrow now. When you are studying, you have to study hard and don't think about other things, you know. The three of them bowed and went back to get their homework. Early the next morning, Bai Shan went to the school, Bai Erlang went to the academy, and Mr. Zhuang had a class today, so he also went to the academy. Man Bao read the morning class alone in the study, and went to the pharmacy after the morning class. But when she was about to walk to the pharmacy with her backpack on her back, she turned around and found Jojo Lang following her. Seeing that he had been discovered, Jojo Lang smiled and rushed up and said, "Man Bao, fourth brother will take you to the pharmacy. Fourth brother, if you want to follow, follow in an open and above-board way. Being sneaky like this scares me to death." All right, then tomorrow I will follow in a fair manner, let's go, fourth brother will take you to the pharmacy. Man Bao muttered as he walked, "I'm used to walking, so I don't need you to send it." Jojo Lang walked up to her and said in a low voice, "I'm afraid that you won't be able to hold back your temper, and you will rush to take revenge on impulse." Man Bao, am I that stupid? Just use her small body to rush to the Yizhu palace to seek revenge from the Yizhu king? I'm afraid you won't even be able to see the face of the king of Yizhu. Man Bao glanced at the fourth brother with contempt, and said, "Fourth brother, you go about your own business, I won't be so overwhelmed." Jojo Lang thought for a while after making sure, "Forget it, it's all delivered here, I'd better send you to the door of the pharmacy, I won't deliver it tomorrow." Man Bao nodded in satisfaction. Although Man Bao couldn't rush to the Yizhu palace to seek revenge from the Yizhu king, she still did some other things. For example, she went to the shopkeeper Lao Zheng and said, "Uncle shopkeeper, I want to meet those medicine farmers, can I?" Shopkeeper Lao Zheng asked with a smile, "You want to buy medicinal materials? Tell me what you want to buy. Why do you need to meet Yao Nong in person?" Man Bao shook his head and said, "I want to remember some fresh medicinal herbs. I haven't seen them before processing, so I want to mention them to the medicinal farmers so that they can bring me the next time they deliver medicinal herbs. Something fresh. I have told them, it's just that they came late, and the fresh medicinal materials can't survive, so they can't bring them."